guys! Today I'm going to tell you about the books I read in February. As you know from last month's wrap-up, I like to organize things and make lists and make rankings and all those OCD things like that. So I've done the same thing this month where I put the books that I read in a ranking from the book I liked the least to the book I liked the most. So we will start with my least favorite book of the month. I had a pretty good run this month. I liked almost all of the books that I read. I really did like all of them, but I had some problems with some of the ones that are lower on my ranking list. But I read 7 books this month. The book that will take 7th place in my February book ranking is Catching Jordan by Miranda Keneally. I read this on my e-reader, and maybe that was the problem. Maybe that was why I didn't like it as much, though that typically doesn't happen. I typically like the electronic books just as well as a print book. I think maybe the reason that Catching Jordan was not very enjoyable for me is that I read it right after the Super Bowl, and it was because I was kind of having a football hangover and I was so sad that football season was over and I really wanted something to keep the football alive for me. So I read Catching Jordan, and it is about a female quarterback of a high school and the adventures that she goes through. But I think maybe the reason it annoyed me was because everyone acted just like you'd think they would act. The main character is a tomboy and she is shunned by the other girls, the cheerleaders, who are of course the mean girls of the book. The main character has to kind of discover how to be more girly because suddenly she notices boys for the first time, and I don't know. It just was not the book I was looking for at the time. The book coming in 6th on my February book rank is Meant to Be by Lauren Morrill. This book is about a girl who travels to London for her spring break, and she somehow gets roped into this by accident. She should be with her friends at a swim meet, but she instead is going to London with a bunch of people who she would not normally associate with. She ends up getting stuck hanging out with some of the more preppy people from her school that are not into the same scene she is. And of course she does a lot of adventuring and discovers things about herself and about the people around her and about all of the plans and goals that she had made for her life and how maybe she should try to live more spontaneously. And of course there is a love story involved. And this really was very cute. I will say that. I did think that the writing could have been better, but in another month I probably would have ranked this book higher, but since I read so many good books, sorry, Meant to Be, you're number 6. The 5th place book for the month of February is The House Girl by Tara Conklin. The title character of this book, who is the house girl, is a slave girl named Josephine, who is of course living in pre-Civil War America in the South. Also, there is a second point of view from a modern day woman who lives in New York and is a lawyer, and I really thought that, not by the author's design, but I think that the modern day woman's story really overshadowed the story of the slave girl, and that really wasn't what I was looking for in this book. It's not the fault of the book at all, but I really wanted to read more of a historical narrative about the house girl. Instead, I got a whole lot of a modern day woman discovering herself through the stories about the house girl, so not really for me. The 4th place book for the month of February is Faking 19 by Alyson Noël. This book, I don't really know why. This is another one of those books that I don't really know why it got so high up here, because the plot was not something that I really care about. This was a book I bought because it was cheap and I can't get the sticker off. Oh my gosh, the sticker aggravating me. But anyway, this story is about a high school senior who is really just letting her life go. She's losing her scholarships, she's letting her grades fall, her family has kind of left her out to dry, so to speak, or she thinks that they have, and her best friend is going off the deep end, and she's really trying to discover her place in the world that she's created for herself, which she doesn't really discover that until a lot later, because it would have made it a lot easier on her if she realized that all of this stuff that was happening to her was self-imposed. The main character was a little frustrating, but for some reason I flew through this book and I did really enjoy it. There's something about the writing, it's not overwritten, and it's not trying to be artful, it's trying to tell a story, and I never once got pushed out of it by a sentence that was kind of clumsy or by something that I couldn't really understand and had to go back and reread. It was very simply written and very well done. I love books that I don't get sucked out of it because of a sentence that is trying too hard or not trying hard enough. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but I really enjoyed the writing in this book, and the story was fine. Okay, my third place book, and I really think that this would have been a first place book at any other time. But that is Why We Broke Up by Daniel Handler with illustrations by Mara Kallman. This book, I don't know why I like this so much, and I did look on Goodreads and looked at my friend reviews, and it looks like you guys did not like this book at all. But I really liked it. I really liked the style of the writing, even though it was hard. It was a hard read. It took me several days to get through this book, and it's really not thick, and a lot of the pages are illustrations, but it took me a long time to get through it. But the basic idea of this story is it begins with a girl writing a letter to her ex-boyfriend about why they broke up, and it tells the story of their relationship from beginning to end, and you already know that they're going to break up, but I kind of had hope that something would come about and get them to stay together or get back together before I got to the end. I mean, she's dating a dirtbag, so I'm glad they broke up. But it was just really artfully done. There was so much nostalgia in this book, almost so much that I think it's not really a young adult book. I think that it's probably written more for someone like me who is far removed from high school and can really appreciate all of the feelings and sounds and smells and thoughts that these kids are having that I'm not really sure that someone who is actually a teenager would think about during that time. It really seemed like the main character, Min, was more mature and more observant and kind of looking at the situation from a farther distance than she really was in the book. But I thought it was beautifully written, and I enjoyed the story. I really loved it. My number 2 book for February is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This book was so cute and so sweet. Lara Jean is just adorable. I loved her character. I really connected with her and related to her. I really enjoyed the relationships with Lara Jean and her sisters, with her dad, with her friends. None of it felt stilted or forced. It all felt like it developed as it should have. It was really adorably done, and I can't wait to read the second book in this duology. Okay, time for my number 1 book of February, and that is Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. I really don't want to say a lot about this book because I feel like everyone should just read it. I don't even want to say that this book is good or that I enjoyed it. I want to say things like important and powerful. This book might be one of my favorites of all time. I read this for the first time in high school and I loved it then, and I reread it this month with kind of some hesitation because I was scared I wouldn't like it as much, but I still did. I loved it so much. So my camera died, so I'm just gonna finish up real quick on my phone. This is kind of a story that contains a lot of feminist elements and a lot of empowering stories. Also, it's written with a lot of dialect, which a lot of people really don't like, but I love books written in dialect. Zora Neale Hurston's research and her background just led her to be able to write just such a fascinating story. I just don't think this can be duplicated. Everyone should read this right now. Okay, so those are the books that I read in February, and I hope you like my little ranking system. I'm sorry that I tend to do these weird listing type videos all the time. It makes me feel better. It keeps me organized. So I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you guys next time. Bye! Oh my gosh! There's something stuck on my lipstick. A hair somewhere on my mouth.